All right, everyone, we still have 1 more minute to go. So let's wait a little bit more so that more people can join. At the moment we are 40 people. We expect a few more. So let's take 2-3 more minutes.
I think I can see Dr. Song.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
So
Yeah, I can see you.
Wisdom. Who is the director?
Hello, Wisdom.
Center
Nice to meet
for
you here.
Labor Safety.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good. I think it's 2 o'clock Vietnam time. I suggest we are getting started. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants from all around the world, actually. It's really a great pleasure to have you attending our today's webinar with the title Sustainable Construction for a Better Living Environment. Before we get started, I'm pretty sure that you have been attending dozens of webinars in the past months. So please remember to keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking. In case you have any questions to the presenters, I encourage you to use the chat function. And we will try to answer these questions either after the presentation, or we have as well a panel discussion towards the end of the webinar. The slides will be shared with you after the webinar, and as well a recording of it will be available. For this, please share your email address. I put a form into the chat box where you can fill in your email address in case you would like to receive the presentation material. My name is Bruno Fuchs. I'm Vice Chairman of the Green Growth Sector Committee of Eurocham Vietnam, and I will be your moderator today. With this, I think we are all set to go and we can go straight into the topic. And for this, I would like to actually hand over to Tommaso Andreatta. He is the chairman of the Green Growth Sector Committee of Eurocham in Vietnam. Having graduated from UCLA Anderson School of Management with an MBA in Finance and Strategy, Tommaso Andreatta has had more than 10 years of working for chambers of commerce in Vietnam and contributing to the sustainable development of the country. He has been an executive board member and vice chairman of the European Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, Eurocham, and is currently chairman of Eurocham's Green Growth Sector Committee. Tommaso is firmly convinced that Vietnam can choose a more sustainable path to growth, and in which European firms can be of substantial support. So with this, Tommaso, please, I would like to give the floor to you for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Bruno. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, we all deserve to live in pleasant cities, clean and well organized. Thanks to modern techniques and technology and to the increased awareness of the threats to health of pollution, we are slowly moving closer to being able to have them. Currently, cities eat up of 35% of energy and produce about 40% of emissions, and an even higher percentage of the population lives in cities. So the quality of their life is directly affected by the quality of the city. On the one hand, a few developers have started to build whole parts of town in quieter areas, with green and space, with more attention to safety and services. And they have the instruments to know better what technology to use for air conditioning, water, perhaps even waste management, since the towers will be run by professional companies who understand whole life cost and performance. On the other hand, the government has started last year to be more specific in its laws and regulations on quality of buildings and standards of construction, on the materials used and the adoption of practical solutions to reduce emissions and pollution in all phases of the life of building. Next week, Monre will look at carbon footprint of buildings, energy and traffic, and plans to introduce a national market to trade carbon credits. I do not believe in carbon credits, as they are just a way not to feel guilty of polluting, since someone else is already reducing CO2. but it is essential that everyone does something in the right direction. A few days ago, with Blue Green, we have looked at water in cities, how to deal with floods, and how to have more to use and reuse for services and life. Today is about materials and construction, and we shall hear of the leaps forward in regulation, of the necessity to switch from the linear to the circular economy in order to save the resources of our planet, reduce pollution, improve the life of the people, and make money for the companies. We shall also hear how important it is to certify each building, so at least all the important questions will have been asked on time. And we shall learn how urban planning is a key to coordinating and encouraging the move towards more livable cities, and how a school in Hanoi sets a shining example to all other institutions. I am currently following a course on circular economy, and the topic of last week was culture change and involvement of all relevant stakeholders. To be achieved, also making use of the AIDA model, awareness, intention, desire, action. I think that is a key for progress to be made. Vietnam is at best at the awareness stage. It is essential to educate architects designing buildings, developers financing and building them, real estate agencies managing them, and the government regulating all. But we cannot stop at big projects. As in Vietnam, a lot of buildings are developed by the owner of the land, whose main interest is usually to maximize the sale price. Other house owners will instead try to build the house as cheaply as possible, because they can barely afford to make it in order to live in it. Many of the companies today wish their customers were also in line with their corporate culture and products, but they struggle to communicate and convince. I hope today's work marks a step forward towards working together, improving communication, involving and advocating the government at all levels. And I would like to thank Bruno, Bao, Ms. Hang, and all of those who assisted them in organizing the event. Thank you very much. Bruno, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Thomas. A really nice setting the stage for today's webinar. And you addressed a couple of topics where we will have the opportunity to deep dive a little bit with experts in this field. So I would like to actually hand over and introduce our next speaker, who is Dr. Le Thi Song. She will share about the direction for green building material development in Vietnam. Le Thi Song has a doctor in chemistry. She is a researcher at Vietnam Institute for Building Materials, VIBM, which is part of the Ministry of Construction, MOC. Her focus areas are recycling materials, energy efficient building materials, and labeling for building materials. So with this, I would like to hand over to Dr. Song.
Okay, so thank you so much for the introduction. And firstly, I would like to share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen? Yes, can.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I would like to start. First of all, thank you so much for invitation for me to join to the conference today. And I would like to talk about the direction for green building materials development in Vietnam. My presentation has four: introduction, regulation, implementation status, and the orientation for green building material development. Hello, can you hear?
There's a little bit of an echo.
I hear the sound of something. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, if you have two computers in the same place, you need to mute and turn off the speaker of once and just you once.
Is it okay?
Hiện nay xong để hai cái mic.
Yeah, I think it's better now. It's better now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. Okay, so I would like to continue. According to the global status report for building and constructions, the building are responsible for 36% of global energies and also 39% of global emissions. So to reduce the negative impact, many countries in the world have developed in a program for green building certification, energy efficiency building certification. And the most effective way is to use green building materials. And as you may know, that green building materials have many benefits, and so you can some example here. For the products producers, using green materials will make a good image of business that comply with Vietnamese regulation, and also creating a competitive advantage, especially in difficult markets. And for consumer, using green materials will consume to be sure about the quality and safety for the health, and also to reduce the risk of disease due to the use of product containing harmful substances. And also for the state, the development of green building materials will promote the sustainable production and consumption, also reduce the pollution to the environment and improve environmental qualities, and so on. So in Vietnam, government also have issued many policies to promote the using of green building materials. And here I show you some main regulations. Firstly, we have law system. The laws on environmental protection law 55, which was issued in 2014, has no specific regulation on this. However, the version which was published in 2020, this is the first time the development of environmental economic and environmental audit mentioned. It happens the same to the construction laws. The version which was published in 2014 also has no specific regulations on the green materials. However, in the version which was published in 2020, there are two main points mentioned in Article 10 and in Article 160. In Article 10, it is indicated that the state encourage and facilitate the research, application of advanced construction, science and technologies, use of new building materials to save energies and the nature resources, to protect the environment and to respond for climate change. In Article 162, it's mentioned about the responsibilities of Ministry of Construction. It indicates that the Ministry of Construction should do some action, for example, submitting, promulgating, and organizing the implementation of legal documents and national technical regulation on construction. The second, we have decree system. In the decree no. 15 were published in 2021 by on management of construction investment. There are three point mentioned in Article number 7, which deal with energy efficient building, resource saving buildings, and green building. The first point is there must be technical solution and management measurement in order to use energy efficient resources and to protect environment. The second point is state encourage the construction, development, evaluation, and certification of energy efficient building, resource saving buildings, and green building. The third point in this decree is the Ministry of Construction shall organize the development of standard, specified criteria, and procedure for assessment and certification of energy efficient building, resource saving building, and green building. Next, we have No. 9, which were published in 2020 by government on management of building materials. There are also main points in this decree. In Article 5, development of building materials that save mineral resource, saving energies, and friendly to environment. And the Article number 7 emphasizes about the regulation on the roadmap for using resource saving building materials, energy saving building materials, and environmental friendly building materials. Next, we have the mini decision. Decision No. number 1216, which was published by government in 2012 on the National Strategy for Environmental Protection to 2020 and the Vision to 2030. And also the draft version of this, which will be published, which is now under consideration and will publish soon in the next year. Both are emphasized that by 2013 to ensure about environmental security, to build and develop a green and low carbon economy. In this No. 1393, which was published in 2012 of government by which deal with the national green growth strategy. This decision emphasizes the part that is green growth towards a low carbon economy. And another decision, which number 253, which was published in 2009 by Ministry of Nature, Resource and Environment. Which this deal with the program of granting eco-labels or Vietnam Green Environmental Labeling Program, which also referred as Vietnam Green Label. And we also have another decision No. 280, which was published in 2019 by government. And in this decision, the government approves the national program on economical and efficient use of energy for periods of 2019 to 2030. In this decision, it is emphasized that by 2013, there must be 150 construction works had to be obtained the green building certification using energy economically and efficiently, and also the implementation of energy labeling for 50% of building material product with requirement on isolation used in construction work. And for the system on the regulation, we also have technical regulation and standards. In the National Technical Regulation of Energy Efficiency Buildings, MQCB and 09, which were published in 2017 by Ministry of Construction. In this national, it indicates that construction with a total floor area of more than 2,500 square meters must meet the requirement for building envelope, as I saw here. For example, for the roof, the maximum thermal transmittance should be 1.0, and for the wall, door, window, the maximum thermal transmittance should be 1.8. And we also have standard for heat resistance for the house, with name TC and 9258 will publish in 2012. And that's all the main regulations relating to development of green building materials. And I would like to focus the second part, which is the current implementation status of green building material in Vietnam. So firstly, the implementation of evaluation and certification of green product. Currently, Vietnam Green Label Program has used 17 set of criteria for different product groups. Among the product, building material have type products which are construction, ceramic, and paint for construction under this program. And currently, the Ministry of Construction also have developed a set of green label criteria for cement, sanitary ware, and fabric. However, the program is now still under consideration and comparison for VGBC in the next time. In fact, Vietnam only on Trong cement factories which were received certificated as a green cement product from Singapore.
Mẹ biết ai đây không?
It's
Biết ai đây không?
implementation of evaluation and certification system of a green building. Currently in Vietnam, there are 5 sets of tools and organizations where we can evaluate and certify the green building use energy economically and efficiently. First one is called CTX tool, which will comply by Association of Civil Engineering Environment. The second one is H certification, which were developed by international financial institutions. The third one is TUS certification, which were developed by Vietnam Green Building Council. And the fourth one is NIST certification, which were researched by US Green Building Council. And the last one is IMA certification, were developed by Singapore Green Building Council. And in this slide, you can see the number of buildings which deal with the local certification until 2020. From this data, we can see that until 2020, there are 34 buildings get the certification from Lotus, and about 37 building is on the way to get the certification. And in this slide, you can see the number of buildings deal with this certification until 2020. From this data, you can see that until the end of 2020, about 93 buildings will get the LEED certification, and 145 building is now on the way to get the LEED certification. And that's our current orientation stage part. And I will move to the last part, which is orientation for green building material development. Because using green building material have many benefits, as I showed you before. So Vietnam do many action to promote the use of green building materials. And here I show you some main action. Firstly, the government will continuously issues of related regulation on certification of green building materials, environmental friendly building materials, and energy saving building materials. Also, continuously reviewing and improving the content of on pollution emission control in building material product into the revised version of National Code QCBN 50. We were published in 2019 and will considered for the issue in 2020. And second main action of government is to conduct the research and evaluation on life cycle assessment of building material product, increasing the capacity of the testing, evaluating, and building a database on heat transfer of door and building materials, and also developing the norm of energy consumption in the production of building materials. There are action will take place in the period of 2020 to 2022 to 2023. And the third main action is the labeling and product certification of green building materials, environmental friendly building materials, and energy saving building materials. On the basis of the ICU regulation and standards, Vietnam is for building material will coordinate with the other partners to pilot and then extend the assessment and the certification of green product, green building material, and energy saving building materials. And the last main action is we also do some official training for all related departments, branch products, production units, and also consumption units to promote the use of green building materials. Is that all for my presentation today? Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Song. We had some difficulties to hear you very clearly, but I think luckily we saw your very clear presentation, very clear slides, indicating what is the current status of green building materials in Vietnam and what is the future. Clearly there is a lot of development potential still there, but there is as well a clear commitment from the Vietnamese government to support and facilitate this. So thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Yeah, so with this, I would like to introduce now our next speaker, Mrs. Hang Phan. Ms. Hang Phan is chair of VGBC, the Vietnam Green Building Council, since 2018. She is a Lotus accredited professional. She has more than 20 years of experience in construction sector with the first background in architecture and specialized knowledge in building physics and solution development. Ms. Hang has a deep understanding of green and sustainable building schemes and is a very strong supporter for climate action, net zero carbon, circular economy in construction and sustainable materials. So Ms. Han will elaborate on the three major challenges that we are having in the construction sector. You're still on mute.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Now it's great. Thank you.
Good. Can you hear me and see me well, as well as my slides?
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a border world, and we borrow the world from the one that came before us, and it is in our responsibility to maintain this ecosystem for the next generation. So with the more and more concern for climate change, today I want to discuss with you the global challenges that also set the three major changes in the construction sector. Let's have a look at the problem we are facing. The previous speaker also mentioned a bit about this. By 2050, we will have 9.8 billion people on planet Earth, and the world building stock will be double, increasing the impact of our sector significantly. The building sector in charge of 39% of total greenhouse gas emissions. It also consumes 40% of raw materials. And worst of all, in Asia, we are in charge of half of these new build that constructed every year. And its demand on the natural resources is a major contributing factor to global warming. And inefficient and unhealthy building also affecting negatively to our health and well-being. 91% of people live where air pollution level exceeds a WHO limit. Hence, to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, the World Green Building Council has set the strategy for a few years now that focus in three key areas. First is climate action, resource and circularity, and health and well-being to drive the impact from the building and construction sector. The World Green Building Council will work with the local Green Building Council around the world to implement the strategy at the local level. So in this presentation, I would like to discuss the challenges as well as the solutions. How can we implement this strategy? Let's start with the climate action. In 2018, World Green Building Council staff initiate the Advancing Net Zero Carbon projects. It is a global project working towards the sector decarbonization by 2050. And it aims for two milestones. By 2030, all new buildings and renovation will have at least 40% less embodied carbon, and all new buildings are net zero operational carbon. And by 2050, new buildings in the infrastructure and renovation will have a net zero embodied carbon, and all buildings, including existing building, must be net zero operational carbon. So here you may see the two new concepts of operational and embodied carbon. What are these? I will mention it in the next slides. And there's another campaign by the United Nations called Net Race to Zero. This campaign built the momentum around shifting to decarbonization of the entire economy by 2050 at the latest. So let's have a look at the definition of the embodied and operational carbon to bring everybody on the same page. You see here in the picture a representation of a whole life cycle of a building. When we're talking about the operational carbon, we refer to the carbon emission directly or indirectly during the use phase of a building, which means the energy we use for heating, cooling, and to use the electrical appliance and so on inside the building in use phase. And embodied carbon is referring to the total emissions of a building over their lifetime, which including the manufacturing of a raw material, the construction or renovation of a building until its end of life. So now our key questions. how can we achieve the net zero ambitions? So the answer here is we need to reduce carbon emission at all stages, a whole life cycle of a building. So there are three key measures that we can look at. The first is better energy efficiency for the building. So through the deep renovation of existing building to reduce the energy consumption, such as we can enhance the thermal insulation of a building envelope, better design with facade orientations, green roof, or using the appliance which have energy efficiencies. So energy efficiency is the core driver to reduce the operational carbon emissions. And Dr. Song had mentioned a lot of building code and decree. These are very crucial to drive this energy efficiency target. And especially in Vietnam, we already have the QCVN 09, the standard that stipulates the requirement for energy efficiency of the building. The second strategy is we switch to renewable energies as much as possible. In 2017, solar energy played almost no part in Vietnam energy strategy. But by the end of 2019, Vietnam has surpassed Malaysia and Thailand to reach the largest installed capacity of the solar panels in Southeast Asia. So there is a hope for us. The third strategy is to cut the embodied carbon of a material using low carbon material and system and through the technologies innovations. So by acting on those two dimensions, operational and embodied carbons, alongside with the uses of renewable energy supply, it is essential to achieve the full decarbonization of the sector. The second focus area here is resource and circularity. You can see in this chart, elaborated by United Nations, that the consumption of resources that we use has grown over the years with an acceleration since 2000. So the total global extraction in 2017 was 92 billion tons. If compared to 1970 of 27 billion tons, it has increased 3 times, while our global population only increased 2 times. And if you look at the charts, you can see 2 important informations here. First, the extraction of non-metallic minerals, here in orange color, has increased 5 times since 1970. Non-metallic minerals mean sands, gravels, clays, main material we use in the buildings. And the second thing we can extract from this chart is the material productivity, meaning the economic input, the economic output generated per tons of material consumed has not progressed, has not increased since 1990, represented by the black line here. So there are consequences of a linear economic approach that we are in, where we take, make, and dispose. If we zoom into sand, which is most exploited resources worldwide after water, the number one purpose of sand extraction is for concrete, but only less than 5% of the world's sand supply can be used for concrete. My friend Bruno from NC can comment here, but desert sand is too rough to stick with cement. There's only marine sand or river sand is suitable for construction. but we are consuming 2 times more than what the normal erosion can produce. And over the last 30 years, the sand demand has grown by 360%, and it will continue to do so. And we already witnessed the consequences of a sand depletion happening everywhere in Vietnam. And behind this situation, with the growth in resource extraction and more waste landfill, it's not only leading to the obsolescence of the many virgin resources, but it also worsening our ecological footprint, the loss of biodiversity, environmental and climate impact, what we can observe daily, as well as negative impact to the human health. And to address these challenges, the only way we can move forward is changing the approach, changing the business model from linear economy to circular economy. And there are also several business opportunities that circular economy is able to provide. If waste becomes the secondary resource, then and circularity is a business model, then waste recycling service can be a business opportunity. And we can capture the secondary resource from the source. And beyond the traditional way of producing and selling, circular economy also generating a new business model whereby we can provide, as a manufacturer, we can provide product as a service. So this model has already done by several business like Michelin. They're not selling tire, but they sell the kilometer of usage of tire for truck, for example. Or some lighting company, they sell light as a service. The other model is reusing. When we are talking about the material that are supposed to last a long time, so this material can be disassembled and reused in the new building when the old building is no longer is required. But to use this approach effectively, it involves the whole value chain of a project. It requires the changing of a mindset from the architect, design the building that can be dismantled, design for the construction. And for the real estate investor, offer circular building because of the added value. For contractor, focus on reuse and the sustainable building method and material. And the stakeholder in the left-hand side will benefit more from this circular model, where the supplier of material can offer sustainable material with a material passport. What I mean by material passport, that means the kind of identify card, show the no hazardous content or recycle content of a material. And they can also offer the new business model as mentioned in the earlier slide about service or lease instead of selling the products. The demolishers can dismantling and sell high-grade building material for reuse. And the wholesaler can distribute this building material through the material banks. So we see there's a more opportunity for the stakeholder on the left-hand side to integrate into the value chain or getting the profit from the service or buyback of the circular business model. The third focus area, the last but not least, is health and well-being. Better place for people is creating causal global projects to analyze the impact of green building around the world to the health and well-being and productivity of people live within them. And in the past 5 years, they have published reports around variety of different building types, including retails, homes, schools, and offices. And all these case studies demonstrates that the chance of health and well-being, providing the positive health benefit for the end user is actually taking shape around the world, and there's a strong link between the green building and the productivity of occupants in this building. This is an example of a relationship between the building comfort and the study efficiency in schools. For example, the report also identified the key comfort factors in indoor environments, which are indoor air quality and ventilations, daylight, thermal comfort, and acoustic comfort. And it showed that the school attendance reduced 1.5 days per year due to the higher level of CO2 concentration in the air to 100 parts per million. Or the increase in oral reading fluencies when the student exposed to higher intensity light had increased to 36%. Or the student gain 4% of more correct answers in math when they are in the thermal comfort classroom. And especially for the school sector, the noise and acoustic comfort is very crucial. The language math score, the language and math score can reduce significantly to 5.5 points when there is 10% 10 decibel increase in the background noise. So acoustic comfort here is very crucial for this sector. So after several years of global analysis and consultation, last year in November, the World Green Building Council has introduced the health and well-being framework. It is a very comprehensive tool, provide a holistic approach, and it covers 6 key principles, starting from protecting health, which address the air quality, water quality, infectious disease, and mental health. Secondly, design to prioritize comfort, like I mentioned in the earlier slide about thermal comfort, acoustic comfort, lighting, and visual comfort. Also, ergonomic and inclusive design. The third principle is designed to harmonize with nature, about biophilic designs, have access to nature, and maintain the biodiversity, and use nature-based solutions. The fourth is designed to facilitate healthy behavior, so through the active design, to facilitate social connectivity and healthy lifestyle. The third principle is create social values, and this is something new in this health and well-being framework, because the definition of a good building is not only to provide the comfort for its occupants, but also taking care of community health and construction and worker health and social values around the building. Yeah. And the last principle incorporates of taking climate actions into the design consideration, so such as design to adapt for climate adaptation, design to adapt with climate change and mitigation, and also taking care of resource efficiencies and material health. So these principles can be used as a design checklist during the planning stage, or as well as throughout the construction process, to have the whole value chain with all different stakeholders of the building to collaborate in a better way. So I have discussed the 3 challenges and as well as the 3 chains of the construction market. And when, sorry, can you move the phone, please? So when we discuss the solution to these challenges,
Hung, you are on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Where
we
were
can.
I on mute? From this line or all the way through?
No, just there, just there. 2 seconds.
All right, good.
Good to
Okay.
go.
All right. So when we discuss the solutions to address the challenges, we see the concept of sustainable buildings and green buildings fit nicely to the pictures, because sustainable buildings is a building that enhance the people's health and well-being while reducing the environmental impact and protect biodiversity and resources. So let's have a close look at the Lotus Green Building Certificate to understand better. Lotus is a voluntary green building certification that developed by Vietnam Green Building Council. It has different certificates for different types of building, but mainly it covers 8 key criteria, and these criteria aim to give an objective and comprehensive assessment of environmental performance of a building, promoting energy efficiency and reduce contribution to climate change, promoting and enhancing health and individual health and well-being, promote sustainable use of resources, and protect biodiversity and water resources throughout the whole life cycle of projects. Here is some example of Lotus projects in 2020, and I would like to have a close look at the case study of one green building to analyze the environmental impact of a green building. So this case is a green one UN house. This is a Lotus Platinum project completed in 2017. In this project, they use 35% of total roof area is a green roof, and 77% of landscape that are limiting the heat lamp effect. And thanks to this feature, it reduced 29% of energy use. And although they have a lot of landscape and green roof, they still reduce, have a 44% reduction of water use through the fixture and the recycling water system. And in this building, they also use 94% of reused structure. And on top of this building, they have a solar panel that produce 110,000 kilowatt per hour per year. So, in summary, we have talked about the 3 global challenges that answer 3 global chains that are climate actions, resource circularity, and health and well-being. This the new chain that will redefine how we approach the construction business today. And business as usual is no longer an option. We want new buildings will have low operational and low embodied carbon, using renewable energy. We want the building using recycled resources, designed to be reused, designed to be dismantled, not to be landfill anymore. The building that provide health and comfort for user, for community. And we all share the deep sense of responsibility for the futures. Choosing the green building will help us to achieve those global targets towards a more sustainable world. So please join us in creating green building for everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Hung. I mean, your presentation was really extremely rich in terms of challenges which are out there, but as well in terms of potential solutions. And I think what really stuck out for me is that we really have to collaborate across the complete value chain. And exactly. I think this should be, everybody can contribute its part to that one. And actually, in terms of value chain, you know, what we intended to have is as well a nice coverage in our webinar across this value chain. And normally we would have now Sergio representing the architects speaking to us, but literally 10 minutes before our webinar, one of his co-workers called me saying that his wife is about to deliver a baby and he had to go to the hospital urgently. So unfortunately, he cannot be with us here, and as well the company Saraiva and Asociados were not able to give us another speaker to get us through the slides. So very unfortunate, we have to skip this part. The slides will be included, and the connect details for Sergio will be there as well, but very unfortunate we cannot hear him talking about the role of the architect. So it's a real pity, but yes, that's life, right? We cannot plan everything. Well, we can plan, but it might turn out a little bit different. So unfortunately, we have to skip this part, but I would like now to go one step further and talk a little bit from the perspective of a construction material supplier, of INSEE actually, and how INSEE can contribute to a green environment and sustainable cities. I hope you can see my slides, and I hope you can hear me clearly. If not, please shout out. So we heard a lot, especially in the last presentation from Ms. Hung, that construction materials can play a very important role when it comes to green buildings and green cities. So I would like to check actually if green and gray can be a match. And with gray, I'm talking about concrete and cement. So I'm giving this presentation as the Director of Sustainability and Ecocycle of INSEE. INSEE is one of the leading construction material supplier in Vietnam. So first, what do we understand when we are talking about sustainable construction? And there are a few points that are highlighted in here. So first of all, it has the word sustainable. So it means that it's about social progress, which recognizes the needs of everyone today, but as well into the future. It is about protecting the environment. It's about using the natural resources which are limited in the most efficient way. And as well, of course, deliver still economic growth, but doing it in a sustainable way. So sustainable construction, to be honest, is actually really at the heart of INSEE. It's actually our business, and I will try to explain you a little bit what we are doing with regards to that. So there are 5 techniques, according to this website, that are having an impact on sustainable building, and I would like to showcase maybe a little bit on how INSEE is addressing this. So first, prefabricating materials in controlled environments. So the modular concept, we have been hearing a lot about this as well. So this definitely has an improved quality of the buildings, and it can result in much less waste that we are having in there. Second point is construction waste management. And this has been highlighted by Hung very clearly as well, that this is a field where there's a lot of potential to develop, especially here in Vietnam. I believe here we are really just at the very start of doing this. In other more developed economies, there is already a better market for this construction waste management. Then there is a lot we can do at site in terms of improved the environment, and I will show you a few examples around this. I will show you as well a bit on lean and green manufacturing and how can we reduce actually the energy and the resources we are using to produce our construction materials. And last but not least, of course, again, the material selection that you mentioned. We have been heard in the first presentation from Dr. Song. You know, there are green labeled materials out there that should have a lower environmental footprint, and this should be definitely the preferred materials when we go the way forward. So for each point, just a few more details on this. So prefabricated materials, modular concepts, and they have a lot of advantages on, be it on advanced design, economies of scale, safety. Usually it's more cost efficient, it's flexible, and it definitely contributes to green construction, and it can substantially accelerate actually the construction process and thus save time. So it not only makes sense from an environmental point of view, but as well from an economic point of view. The second point is on managing the site for an improved environment. Now really focusing here again on cement and concrete, and there's a lot that can be done at the production site, but then as well at the construction site, and then already here a little bit of construction material and waste management, you know, taking back the concrete that cannot be used, recycle it and put it into precast elements as one of the options. Then in the bottom you see a air picture from our cement plant in Hongchong. Of course, we are following various ISO certification standards for the environment, for quality, for health and safety, etc. Now I would like to focus a little bit in the next probably 5 minutes or so on the material selection. So we have been heard that materials have a significant impact on the greenhouse gas emissions as such, and of course there are different construction materials out there. So you have certainly all saw and heard about bamboo structure, about timber, using wood for buildings, for infrastructure. Of course, this is possible, and there are some successful examples out there. But what is as well a fact is that until today, the most widely used and preferred construction material is concrete. So concrete is actually, after water, the most widely used substance in the world, and it's because of his characteristics. So it has a very long lifespan, it has a very high strength, and it's comparably low cost. And it's quite flexible. So you wouldn't think about concrete to be flexible, but in fact you can really shape it and sculpt it into almost anything you can imagine. And afterwards, of course, it stays in that shape. Now, what is the problem with concrete, and what is the problem with the construction in terms of CO2 emissions? And I think we have already heard a few numbers from the previous speakers. So we see here construction is the second largest industry sector in terms of CO2 emissions. And especially, of course, as well, when we're talking about concrete and cement, we are talking about 5 to 7% contribution to the global CO2 emissions. So that's definitely a significant contribution. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, it's this most widely used manufactured material. So worldwide, about 6 billion cubic meter a year. That's a lot. It's needed for infrastructure, roads, bridges, high-rise building, etc., etc. But actually, only 12% concentration in concrete is coming from cement. But this cement is responsible for 98% of the CO2 emissions. So let's have a deep dive into the cement part. So there are actually different types of cement. We have what we are calling the ordinary Portland cement, OPC, which is the main component is actually clinker and a little bit of gypsum. This has a relatively high CO2 emissions. But what we are seeing more and more is that the blended cements, for example, PCB40, etc., are gaining traction. And blended cements means that the clinker factor of that cement is much lower, and additives and other on gypsum, etc., is much higher. So we can actually use clinker and mix it with, for example, fly ashes, with some pozzolanic materials. We can use byproducts from the steel industry, such as blast furnace slag, and we can use limestone, etc., to mix and create a low carbon cement and a low carbon concrete. And that this can be quite significant, this impact, you can see on the little chart on the right side, where we have different strengths of the concrete. But I would like just to focus on the comparison between a classic concrete, where we have maybe up to 300 kilograms CO2 per cubic meter. And if we use an ultra low carbon concrete, this is reduced by half. So we are talking then only about 120 kilograms CO2 equivalents. So a blended cement definitely can have lower emissions in there. Furthermore, I think blended cements has a lot of other advantages. So it definitely improves the resource efficiency of the cement production. So we are using less energy, in terms of coal, electricity to produce the cement. We are reducing the use of natural resources, and we can actually manage byproducts from other industries in a meaningful manner. So as such, this can really reduce significantly the greenhouse gas emissions. I think we all know global warming, climate change is a very hot topic, especially here in Vietnam, because climate change has a significant impact to Vietnam. So again, here just a few numbers. When we're now talking about clinker again, so the standard CO2 emissions per ton of clinker around 700 to 800 kilograms of CO2. If we are using a high recycled product in here, we can reduce this more than 50%. And you know, this composite and blended cements, they're really making its way forward. And you see here just an example in Germany, where in the 1990s, most of their cements were actually OPC, ordinary Portland cements. And today, or let's say a few years later, they have been reduced significantly. And I think this is as well a trend we should promote in markets where we are still using a lot of this ordinary Portland cement OPC. So in Vietnam, actually, blended cement has quite a long tradition. It's an efficient source of construction material, and it's adapted to local and to the tropical climate that we are having in here. However, what is quite interesting is that in the last years, the utilization of OPC actually increased a bit. And this is mainly driven because of foreign project specification, especially from the US and Japan, who are not considering the local climate in here. So it's simply a copy paste of the specifications from other countries. And as such, we are missing actually the opportunity to drive more for blended cements in here. Overall, we have to say the blended cements, they are meeting all application requirements, all quality requirements, so there's no issue at all with regards to that. So now I would like to give you some specific solutions that we're having at INSEE here in Vietnam. So first of all, in terms of green manufacturing and the reduction of electricity and energy consumption, we invested and developed a waste heat recovery system at our cement plant. This was a significant investment, but I think definitely as well a significant reduction of energy needs that we are having. So we are producing about 25% of the energy, electrical energy, at our cement plant in Hongchong from this waste heat recovery system. So again, this has a big impact on CO2 reduction, and of course as well a big impact on saving fossil fuels or natural resources that we are having in there. Second point, on the thermal energy, we are using a lot of waste-derived fuels in our cement manufacturing process. So we are trying to reduce the amount of coal that we are using, and we replace it with waste-derived materials. So today we are replacing as well about 25% of our thermal energy need with waste materials basically in there. And there I could talk hours about co-processing and these waste-derived materials, but that's not the topic here. Just would like to highlight as this is one of our initiatives that we're having. The third is about our product portfolio, and it has been mentioned by Dr. Song in her speech at the beginning. We were the first, and if I understand well, until now even the only company in construction material cement in Vietnam who has the Singapore Green Building product label for all of our products. So we are all having blended cements. This is for bag cements, and this is as well for bulk cement and industrial applications. We are not stopping here. We are actually right now in the process of developing our EPD, environmental product declaration for our products. So that should be given even more transparency on our footprint of our products. Furthermore, we are developing as well new products. I would like to present you here Conwood. This is something that actually looks like wood and has all these nice characteristics of wood in terms of visual attractiveness, but it has the characteristics of concrete. So it's very strong, very durable. So this is using about 75% cement and about 20 to 25% of recycled materials, recycled fibers. Last but not least, a few notes about now green building and our contribution to that. Again, we are having products at hand that can provide you with green cement and green beton. This can be for all types of concrete elements, but as well for very specific elements, like if you have to do the foundation, if you have to have the beaming, the columns, etc. We have developed specific products that meet the requirements of our customers in there. As well, very interesting one product, for example, the hydropave beton, which is basically permeable for water. So this can help on flood reduction. It can help as well in terms of the reduction of heat island effects and so on. And then we are developing as well a lot into lightweight beton. So here as well we have a lot of products in our portfolio that can support this. And with these construction materials, you will be as well eligible for points in the various green building certificates, be it Green Mark, Lotus, LEED, etc. So just one reference project, E-Town Central in District 4 in Ho Chi Minh City. This is actually as well where we are having our offices in, and I can tell you I feel very comfortable in there. So this is LEED Gold version 3 certified, and again it has a lot of benefits compared to, let's say, a traditional high-rise building. So more than 20% lower energy consumption, close to 50% reduction in water consumption, and as well a big reduction in construction waste materials. Some other examples where our products have been used, for example, the German house in Ho Chi Minh as well, our Springlight City and Palm City. So to conclude, basically a few points. I believe that yes, we know the built environment has a significant environmental footprint. We have heard it from all the other speakers beforehand. We know as well that concrete is the most widely used construction material worldwide. Now what we have to do is to try to reduce and lower the environmental footprint of this concrete and products. So we are having blended cement, we are having green cement, we are having application-specific products that can support sustainable construction of buildings and cities. So in INSEE Vietnam, our motto is we build for life, and I believe that our expertise and experience over the last more than 20 years really can offer a built environment that is ready for the future. And if I may conclude, at least from my perspective, I believe that gray, so concrete, cement, and green building, green cities is actually a perfect match and can be a perfect match.